GRiZ recently took to social media to announce that after this fall, he'll be taking an indefinite break from the GRiZ project, allowing himself to take things slow and easy for a while, which is something that he hasn't been able to do in over a decade. In honor of his well-deserved break, we'll be taking a look back at how a young kid from Michigan carved out his own lane and grinded his way to the top of the world of electronic music. Grant Richard Kwiecinski was born in the summer of 1990 in Southfield, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. His mom was an English teacher for people whose first language was not English, and his dad was an engineer at General Motors in Detroit. His home life wasn't the best. He said that his father was an alcoholic and often made the family dynamic a rough and verbally aggressive place to find peace.
He was an alcoholic, and he was very verbally abusive, and that was, as a kid, that was really traumatizing. He'd come to our baseball games and yell shit at the ref, and it was embarrassing. And
he moved around the Detroit metro area 7 or 8 times, and his parents split up when he was 11, so he didn't have much stability in his life. Due to their struggles at home, Grant grew very close to his older brother Court. Court became his best friend, role model, and rock. He was always there for Grant, and Grant said, "Without him, I probably would have had a much tougher time. He was really good to me. My brother has been and always will be my closest friend." Aside from his home life struggles, he had what most would consider a pretty normal childhood. He played sports, had friends, was dedicated to his schoolwork, loved Britney Spears, and had a deep interest in music. In elementary school, he started playing the piano, and in 5th grade, everyone at his school had to learn an instrument as a part of their curriculum, and Grant went with the oboe. He wasn't very good at it, and in middle school, he picked up the alto saxophone, which has been a key staple of the GRiZ project. He took lessons from a saxophone player in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, and he once said that his teacher is his favorite saxophone player of all time.
Who's your favorite saxophone player?
My favorite saxophone player was actually my saxophone teacher from the Detroit Symphony Orchestra when I was growing up. I took lessons from him when I was 14 and 15, and he's my favorite saxophone player.
Surprisingly, he actually said in an interview that although he loves the saxophone, it isn't his favorite instrument of all time. It's actually the guitar or trumpet. He grew up on bighorn funk sounds and naturally gravitated towards that vibe as time went on. He listened to a lot of James Brown and the Meters. He was a self-proclaimed hip-hop head and loved a lot of the 90s hip-hop that had funk and soul influences. His music taste went well beyond funk though, and the first albums he ever bought were Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Does This Look Infected by Sum 41. He ended up buying a second copy of Californication after his mom threw out the first one because of its lyrics. He also loves Homework by Daft Punk and would recommend it to anyone looking to get into dance music. He joined the marching band and jazz band in middle school, playing the saxophone, and he continued through high school. Middle school band was where he met his friend Freddie Todd. They became good friends, and the two of them decided to start producing music when they were 14 years old. Grant's mom would often catch him staying up late in his bedroom on school nights working on, quote, terrible-sounding, stupid electronic beats. During high school, he had a job as a debt collector, and Freddie Todd actually had the same job.
I had a bunch of awful jobs. One of them, I was a debt collector in high school. Over summer, I worked in the cubicle in the basement. So did Freddie Todd, too.
The first dance music show he ever saw was when Dan Deacon played in downtown Detroit while Grant was in high school, which was an aha moment for him. Music became a safe haven for him during that period of his life as he began having internal struggles with his sexuality around middle school. He noticed that other kids around him were taking up an interest in girls, and it wasn't something he could relate to.
I was like, that's different because my friends don't love men, and I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what it is.
He would tell himself things like he wasn't ready or that the right person hadn't come along yet, so he kept waiting for years. By the time high school rolled around, he was having a pretty typical high school experience, except for that one thing. By that time, he realized that he was gay, and he didn't want to accept it or let anyone know. He had girlfriends, and he would take girls to dances to ward off any suspicions others may have had, but it just created more internal stress for him. He hated the fact that he was gay, and he resented himself for it. He would pray to a higher power asking to make him straight, and at one point he even started seeing a psychiatrist because he wanted a magic pill that would make him feel okay. His anxiety was through the roof, and he felt tremendous pressure to fit in. At that time, there weren't really any openly gay role models for him to look up to, so he found it difficult to see himself as a part of something. Things would start to get better for him when he enrolled in Michigan State University for college. It was there that he found a small group of gay friends, and with their help, he began to feel more comfortable with who he was and eventually came out to his friends. He said it was a major sense of liberation, and he felt like a more authentic person. He then told his mom, but she told him that she had known all along. Years later, he came out to the world and his fans with his Huffington Post story in 2017, and he was floored by the amount of support from his fans and the music industry. During his time at Michigan State, he studied pre-med, business, and psychology, but the only subject that really interested him was art. He was generally a pretty unenthusiastic student. He began playing music at house parties around town under the name DJ GK, and eventually moved on to playing parties at a place called Mac's Bar, where he was paid in free beer. During this time, Grant was also holding down a job as a dishwasher at LS Teco in East Lansing.
The other job that I don't miss, I was a dishwasher in college. This is the last job that I actually ever had, like the last like job job, and I was a dishwasher at a Mexican restaurant, and it was called LS Teco. Fuck that place.
During his time in college, Grant and his longtime friend Freddie Todd created a glitch hop duo called Splatterbox. Freddie was going to school at the University of Michigan Dearborn, but he would drive to East Lansing on the weekends to hang out and work on beats with Grant. Together, they played a handful of shows in East Lansing, Detroit, and Chicago. At some point later on in college, Grant changed his name from DJ GK to GRiZ, and in the summer of 2011, he released his debut album, End of the World Party. That year, he also released the single Better Than I've Ever Been. Around this time, he was landing some out-of-state shows, one of which was at Cervantes Masterpiece Ballroom in Denver. At that show, Grant met one of his fans, Nick Guarino, who just happens to run This Song Is Sick, a popular Colorado-based music blog. Nick invited Grant back to his home in Boulder and showed him around town. Their friendship blossomed, and Grant dropped out of college when he was 21, and he moved in with Nick in Boulder, which marked the beginning of his full-time pursuit of a music career.
So are you still going to school?
I dropped out of school this semester.
Wow.
It's really expensive, and my graduate degree would have been in arts and humanities, so it was like, you know, when I graduate school, I'm going to be left with this degree and this career that is blossoming more than a degree could ever really get for me.
Yeah, true.
And it became something that was not as important to me, you know. Going through school and learning the foundation of working hard and being a studious person and being interested in learning, that's what school did for me.
Sweet.
And not necessarily getting a degree or a piece of paper.
Grant started to get plugged into the Colorado scene, becoming friends with artists like Big Gigantic, Grammatic, and Pretty Lights. His friendship with Big Gigantic led to a collaboration on the track called Power. At Electric Forest in 2012, GRiZ and Grammatic teamed up to perform a secret set under the name GRiZmatic, accompanied by Dom from Big Gigantic on the sax. In 2013, GRiZmatic released the tracks Digital Liberation is Mad Freedom and My People, and in 2017, they released As We Proceed. GRiZ released Mad Liberation in 2013, which gained him some notoriety, allowing him to go on tour as support for his Colorado friends. His fan base grew from the exposure he got on those tours, and it continued to grow after his release of Rebel Era in 2013, after which he embarked on his first national headline tour, playing a total of 32 shows across the United States. At Electric Forest in 2013, GRiZ, Grammatic, Big Gigantic, and Michael Minert from Pretty Lights were billed as headliners under the name GRiZmatic and Friends. GRiZmatic played a handful of shows up to 2017, and there have also been some shows under the name Big GRiZmatic, which included both Dom and Jeremy from Big Gigantic, and their most recent performance was also in 2017. By this time in his career, Grant was playing plenty of shows and had a little bit of cash burning a hole in his pocket, so he decided to splurge on some Louis Vuitton sunglasses. He ended up sitting on them and breaking them the same day, so he decided luxury purchases weren't his thing. 2013 shaped up to be a massive year for GRiZ. It was the year he created his first record label called Liberated Music, which released music for free on the internet. Grant's friends, the Floozies and Manic Focus, landed the first 2 releases on the label. 2013 was also when the Liberators were formed, an extension of GRiZ's team that helps out at shows and leads community service projects. That same year, the Chicago Cubs gave out packs of Topps trading cards on opening day at Wrigley Field to promote the upcoming Lollapalooza festival. The cards featured artists who were on the festival lineup that year, one of which was GRiZ. Some packs contained a card that said congratulations, and if you got that card, you won a free pass to the festival. GRiZ continued on through 2014 with various shows and festival appearances, as well as releasing other artists' music on his Liberated Music label. 2014 was also the first year of GRiZmas, an annual charity program that focuses on raising funds to increase access to music education for Detroit's youth. It's a 12-day event that features all sorts of activities that draws the Detroit community together, such as dodgeball tournaments, yoga, and it's all capped off with multiple performances from GRiZ and his friends. Since GRiZ will be taking a break from his project starting in October of this year, this is going to be the first year without GRiZmas since it started. It went for 9 years, from 2014 to 2022, raising over $500,000 for the Detroit community. 2015 shaped up to be another big year for GRiZ. He kicked off the year by launching his new record label, All Good Records, in January. Liberated Music was dissolved and replaced by All Good Records, but they both carried the same goals. That year he released his 4th album, Say It Loud, and in the same month he broke into the cannabis industry with his new strain called GRiZ Kush, which was created in collaboration with the Colorado dispensary chain called Native Roots. It's a sativa-dominant hybrid cross between Tangerine Haze and Pakistan Chitral Kush, and it won 2nd place in the Cannabis Cup's People Choice Flowers category. GRiZ's brother Court is involved in the weed business with Grant, and they have since released a new product line under the name Astro Hippie, with strains such as Mr. B OG, G-Funk, and Tie-Dye Medusa.
Okay, so this is grade A marijuana. It's green, so you know it's weed. Astro Hippie. It's the best weed you've ever seen in your life. Okay, so the real deal is I worked with my brother on this project, and I'm gonna wrap myself out here, but we actually started selling weed together back when we were both in high school, and he's been selling and now growing weed ever since.
2015 also brought about the release of the first of his Chasing the Golden Hour mixtapes, as well as his first Red Rocks headline show, and in 2016 he released his 5th album, Good Will Prevail. Now, remember how Dan Deacon was the first dance music show he went to in high school? Well, in 2016, he had a full circle moment with that as he and Dan played the Spring Carnival concert at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. At the end of 2016, he had his first curated New Year's Eve show in Asheville, North Carolina, with support from G. Jones, Papadosio, and longtime friend Freddie Todd. That show was a huge success, so he ran it back in 2017, this time with brass tracks and a Cali. He also released his second rendition of Chasing the Golden Hour in the fall of that year. 2018 was a bit of a slower year for GRiZ, as he spent most of the year on a social media hiatus, and he only played 27 shows, which was roughly a third of the pace that he had been keeping in previous years. He was using that time off to work on finishing his upcoming album. However, that year he introduced Camp Kulabunga, which was an intimate 4-day retreat focused on radical inclusion, community, self-empowerment, and wellness. The event has been going strong ever since, and while it went virtual in 2020 and 2021, it's now fully back in action, and year 6 of Camp Kulabunga is coming up this September. In January of 2019, he released a few new singles off of the album. First, he released I'm Good, and later released Can't Get Enough, as well as It Gets Better with Dram. He released the full album called Ride Waves on April 5th, 2019. In an interview, he said that the name Ride Waves came out of this dharmic idea that anything that has a sense of coming has a sense of leaving, so the idea of impermanence. Everything in this world is impermanent, like waves. It'll come and it'll happen, and then it'll stop happening. You come into the situation and come out of it. You'll go through happiness, you'll go through sadness, everything. You've just gotta ride it. Just ride that shit. With the release of the new album, GRiZ was back in full swing, playing a total of 73 shows for the year, and he was active on social media again. He also dropped his Bangers 1 Zip EP that summer, and followed it up with Bangers 2 in August, which contained the viral track GRiZtronics, a collab with dubstep producer Subtronics. GRiZtronics went viral on TikTok due to its memorable pre-drop vocals.
Ooh, this shit be hitting different.
The song originally blew up with TikToks about food, labeled with the hashtag Taste Different. 2019 was the year that TikTok really came to the forefront, and GRiZtronics was one of the many moments in 2019 that showed us the power and reach of the platform. GRiZ also released his Bangers 3 and 4 EPs in 2019, as well as his Superfly collab with Boogie T. He managed to sneak in 3 shows in 2020 before everything shut down, playing in London, Prague, and a set at Okeechobee Music Festival.
Okie, 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 Chobe, Chobe. Okie, 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 Chobe, Chobe. One more time. Okie, 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 Chobe and Chobe. Hey, okie, 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 okie.
His Okeechobee set became wildly popular and received a ton of views on YouTube that year. It was eventually taken down, but has since been re-uploaded. That set kicked off a spike in popularity for GRiZ, and he added fuel to the fire with his COVID live streams, and he even did a virtual GRiZmas that year.
GRiZmas is going global. The funky holiday tradition here in Detroit, like virtually everything else, is changing this year.
There's a lot of amazing silver linings that we can find throughout that, and that we're opening this up to a global community.
The man behind it, he's no Grinch. GRiZ is one of the most popular DJs in the country, known for his saxophone skills.
With all that time off from touring, we were lucky to get a slew of GRiZ releases that year. We got Bangers 5 and 6, Medusa, which is a collab with Recno, and a house track called Could You, which was released on AC Slater's Nightbase label. That one definitely took me by surprise. And we also got what is personally my favorite body of work from GRiZ ever, with Chasing the Golden Hour Part 3. In 2021, he was back to touring, and we got plenty of new music too. Singles this year included Ease Your Mind with Ganja White Knight, Bring Me Back with Elohim, and GRiZtronics 2. We also got Astrofunk, Tie-Dye Sky, Rainbow Brain, and Vibe Check released as singles off of his upcoming Rainbow Brain album, which was also released in 2021. In April of 2021, GRiZ announced a 2-night curated event at the Hampton Coliseum called Space Camp, which brought along support from major artists such as Closey, LS Dream, Liquid Stranger, and more. The event was a huge success, so he ran it back for year 2 in 2022. Unfortunately, there will be no Space Camp this year due to GRiZ's break, but hopefully it'll come back around whenever GRiZ feels the time is right. And while we're talking about curated events, GRiZ introduced Triple Rainbow in 2022. It was a 2-day outdoor camping event at Alpine Valley Resort in Wisconsin, which also featured some familiar artists who had played at Space Camp. The event had some major hiccups though, specifically with event security and police presence. Many people on social media said that the police were making invasive searches and issuing citations for drug possession. Many fans said that it was the most intense security they had ever seen. GRiZ was pretty unhappy with how the police handled things, and he offered to pay fan citations himself. Although many fans had less than optimal experiences, the shows were still pretty special, as fans got to see a wide variety of artists, as well as 2 rare Chasing the Golden Hour sets from GRiZ. As far as releases for 2022, we got the Closey collab Color of Your Soul, Open Your Mind with Grant's longtime friends Big Gigantic, Feel No Pain, Bass Music with Taboo, Funkonaut with LS Dream, Skydive, Ecstasy of Soul with Zed's Dead, and the Banger 7 EP. GRiZ also released Chasing the Golden Hour Part 4 in 2022. And just so I'm covering all of my bases here, I want to mention some SoundCloud exclusive releases from over the years. In 2011, GRiZ released his remix of Aerosmith's Dream On, and in 2012, his remix of Damian Marley's Welcome to Jamrock, as well as the single You Got to Change. In 2013, he released a remix of Do 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 from Too Fresh and the single Gettin' Live. In 2014, he remixed Lettuce's Slipping Into Darkness, and in 2015, he released Summer 97 with Muzzy Bear, which is his most played track on SoundCloud to date with 20 million plays. In 2016, he released the chilled out single Feelin' High, and at the end of 2022, he released Is There Any Love, which sounds like a fresh throwback to that classic GRiZ funk sound, and personally, it's one of my favorite GRiZ tracks.
One love, represent to the
On June 3rd of 2023, fans got to hear the first GRiZ release of the year, a remix of John Summit's track, Where Are You? Just 3 days after the release of the track, GRiZ announced that he would be taking an indefinite break from the project. He made a post saying, "In October of this year, I'm going to play my last show for the foreseeable future and will be taking a good amount of time off from the GRiZ project. Life is really good, and I often make myself too busy to see just where I am and how far this project has come. I'm following my gut instincts, so for now, I'm not going to put a hard time limit length on the break. Feels like it was only yesterday I was DJing to a room of no one at 9 p.m. for a free PBR or two. I dropped out of college at 21 and moved to Colorado, where I've been living now for 10 plus years working nonstop. So I'm gonna make more time to nurture my relationship with myself and to my fam and friends that far too often I've ignored in place of my relationship with work. I'm excited to take time to travel, find fresh inspiration, write music, and to be in a new headspace. I also got myself a spot in Michigan, which I'm excited to, in time, move back to for parts of the year." 2 days after making the post, he announced what would be his final curated event for the foreseeable future, Ursa Major, a Cosmic Campout. Taking place this October, Ursa Major will be an intimate 3-day camping festival in Flagstaff, Arizona. The event boasts a star-studded lineup with artists like Of the Trees, Sun Squabby, Freddie Todd, and many more. I'm sure GRiZ's team will be pulling out all the stops to make this a special event for everyone in attendance, giving fans an experience to savor while they wait for GRiZ's triumphant return. Grant Kwiecinski's life and career is a shining example of his motto, show love, spread love, as that is exactly what the GRiZ project has done for the past 13 years. Putting out all that love into the world through endless dedication to his fans is surely exhausting, and GRiZ deserves some time to just be Grant for once. He's given his fans memories that will last a lifetime, and he deserves the chance to go make some memories of his own outside of music. I have no doubt in my mind that whenever he's ready to make a comeback, he'll be accepted with open arms once again, and the GRiZ family will be back in action. Until that time comes, I wish Grant the best and hope he gets to soak up some good times and sunshine for as long as he wishes. Keep on chasing the golden hour, my man.